Under long-standing department policy, a president cannot be charged with a federal crime while he is in office. That is unconstitutional. Even if the charge is kept under seal and hidden from public view, that too is prohibited.
Bob Mueller there breaking his silence, speaking about the investigation that he led for 2 years. Mueller, he also had this to say.
Beyond what I've said here today and what is contained in our written work, I do not believe it is appropriate for me to speak further about the investigation or to comment on the actions of the Justice Department or Congress.
So you don't have to be Kreskin here to figure out Mueller doesn't want to testify before Congress. But the question is, will we hear from any members of his team? Well, joining us to help sort that out and also what we heard today in the next steps, former federal prosecutor and good friend to the program, Gene Rossi. Gene, like everybody, I'll do the necessary caveat, and I mean it. Bob Mueller did a great service for this nation, and this nation owes him and the people who worked on it a debt of gratitude. That said, when I heard him today, I thought I was listening to a guy, and I'm pretty sure I am, who felt that he had more that he wanted to say and more that he wanted to do with the evidence he collected, but he felt constrained not to. He was telling Congress, in effect, here, go do your job. But don't ask me to be a part of it. I don't want to even come to the Hill and testify. Is Mueller, in effect, trying to have it both ways?
A little bit, and like you and many others, I have a high regard for Robert Mueller. And the one thing I've concluded is this former Marine is not a showboat, and he's not a showman. But Richard, you hit the nail on the head. His body language, his demeanor, his facial expressions suggested to me that he is very troubled by what he put in that report. And he's further troubled that the Congress is not running with what he calls, or should call, a roadmap for impeachment. And I want to stress this. If you did not have the Office of Legal Counsel memo, there is no doubt in my mind, and I am joined by 999 former federal prosecutors, Republicans and Democrats, Donald Trump would be indicted if he were not Donald Trump and he was just Donald Smith. And you could tell that Robert Mueller is perplexed that Congress is not acting on that report with alacrity.
Well, to that end, Gene, is it the interpretation of Mueller, or is it more black letter here in that he reads the OLC to say these are my guardrails and I cannot go outside of them, and it is the policy of the Justice Department not to indict a sitting president? Do you believe he's being too literal with where he can and can't go? Because that's been the frustration of many. We listened to Bob Mueller today, and in his understated way, he made it clear that he did not say the president was exonerated. Moreover, if he felt the president didn't commit a crime, he would have said so in the report, and he did not. But yet, he doesn't want to extrapolate further because he said that's outside of the lane I was assigned. How much of that was interpretive on his point, and how much of that is, Rich, you just can't do it?
No, it's not the latter. What Robert Mueller is saying is he's a company man. He was appointed under a special counsel regulation, and his mission was to do this report and give it to the Attorney General. His mission is not to lobby and recommend that the OLC memo, which I think is crazy, should be vitiated and ripped up. He was following the rules of the road. And what is important is the difference between would and could. He said in the report and today that he would not make a determination about whether the president committed obstruction of justice. And in his mind, that decision, not to even decide, is consistent with the memo. What I want to stress right now is this. The biggest loser today, in my opinion, is Attorney General Bill Barr, because Robert Mueller threw some serious shade against the Attorney General. And to me, he just put a hole in the big lie of Bill Barr that the OLC memo had nothing to do with Robert Mueller's determination on obstruction of justice. It had everything to do with it. He would not, Robert Mueller would not even decide yes or no on obstruction because he couldn't indict him anyway. And the thrust of what Mueller did in that report and what his body language suggested today is, Congress, I've given you a boatload of evidence, 10 counts. Do something with it. You have a duty to do that. That's what Robert Mueller said today, and that's what his body language said today. And that is a damning indictment against the Attorney General.
And just for anybody at home who's still saying, well, wait a minute, he wasn't charged with anything, that means he was innocent, because we know, more than 90% of the American public, the president, I believe more than 90% of even of the folks on Capitol still haven't read the Mueller report. They go by sound bites or tweets. I want to play a clip. This is the president talking about having not read the Mueller report and what he believes the Mueller report confirmed in his mind.
There was no collusion. There was no Russia. Do you think I'd call Russia? I need help in Idaho. I need help in Iowa. Oh, let's call Russia. It's a con job, just like so many other con jobs that you've been seeing.
No collusion, no obstruction. At the end of the day, hopefully Mueller put to rest the idea that no, there was nothing to see here. There was a lot to see here, and he was not exonerated.
Richard, one of the last statements in Robert Mueller's statement today is that we have to be serious about the multiple and systematic efforts of the Russians to interfere in our election. And another word I want to focus on is this. In his statement, he said there was insufficient evidence about the Russian interference, insufficient evidence to charge a broader conspiracy. Robert Mueller doesn't use words lightly. Broader means he didn't have enough evidence to prove this grand conspiracy between the Trump campaign and the Russians. And I have said many times there was ample evidence to show aiding and abetting by members of the Trump team and the Russians, which in itself, aiding and abetting, is a crime. But Robert Mueller said there's no evidence of a broader conspiracy. He's looking very granular about the charges that he was investigating.
Gene, we know that there was a team, I think the president said, of 19 angry Democrats or whatever the line was. Forget that was not even remotely true. But the point is, today Mueller said he's formally resigning and he's leaving the DOJ. Okay, we knew that was coming, but now we got the punctuation point to it. Do you believe that that fact that he is formally leaving justice in any way liberates or frees up, if not just himself, but also some of the other lead prosecutors who were into the work product to now speak about what they saw or did, that Mueller may choose not to, engage in the public discourse for it, and maybe for good reason, but will the other people on his team, will any of them start to share what was maybe even beyond the report that wasn't included?
Absolutely, and the answer is yes. I predict a couple things. The various committees in the House and Senate are going to do a beeline to Robert Mueller and his staff, some of whom are now private citizens. That alone frees them up because they're not under the auspices and the thumb of Attorney General Barr. Thank goodness, because he is not fair and balanced. Number two, they can testify, including Robert Mueller, to things that aren't protected by privilege. Deliberative process privilege, executive privilege, if there is attorney-client privilege. That is why Don McGahn is in a quandary, because he knows that if he gets a subpoena, and he has, that if he does not have information that is covered by the privilege, he has to respond to that subpoena and testify. And I predict that Robert Mueller, even though he doesn't want to, he is going to be subpoenaed. And I also predict that one or two members of his staff are also going to be subpoenaed, because we need meat on the bones. We have 448 pages of the Mueller report, but we need somebody to help explain some of the intent and the description that is not privileged. And once that happens, Richard, once that happens in public, it is going to be a game changer, because once the American people realize the details of the Mueller report and the fine-tuned footnotes that they put in, people are going to be appalled and offended by the conduct of the president.
Well, we'll see. There's been many times I thought more would with some of the actions I've seen over the better part of 3 years now between the campaign and the presidency, but I have been learned to live with disappointment. That said, impeachment is not just a vote, it's a trial. And just like it changed minds during Watergate, the trial portion there is, many argue potentially minds may be changed if in fact we get to that stage and there is a trial. We have a lot to look forward to, whether we like it or not, in the coming days and weeks. Gene, as always, I appreciate the time, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, everybody, when we come back here, our legal panel will join us. We're going to dig deeper into not just what Mueller said, but also what comes next. And we'll also look at the politics surrounding all of this.